Cassidy, can you stop butting in? You barely investigated the crime scene to begin with. Alright, then tell me, how was a fully loaded assault rifle used as the murder weapon? Except, the victim suffered multiple stab wounds to the torso. If the gun was fired, not only should the body have had bullet wounds, but there would be shell casings from the fired bullets. We saw neither at the crime scene. The bloody knife, it's just so blatantly obvious. It was literally right next to the victim's body. Of course it's related. It's covered in blood. Stop that thought right there. If we keep assuming the killer had the gun, we'll end up running in circles. No, they were definitely armed. With the knife. The reason they didn't use a gun is probably because they never had it to begin with. Easy. The victim. If it wasn't the killer, it has to be her. She must have brought it to the closet. She was probably carrying it before the murder, but dropped it when the killer attacked her. Complete sense. Huh? That's not technically true. There's evidence of a struggle between the victim and the killer. We found dry blood under the victim's fingernails, which implies she was clawing at her attacker. Of course, no explanation is definitive without photo proof of the killer, but I'm confident this is what happened. John actually has a point. The victim probably couldn't see what was going on. According to the tablet, she suffered chemical burns to the face and eyes. That sort of injury would have effectively blinded her. Also, inside the janitor's closet, there was a large empty bottle of bleach. That's probably the chemical that caused the burns. He's correct. The killer put the chemicals in a bucket. Or, more specifically, the same bucket we found at the crime scene. After all, it reeked of bleach. If the killer didn't use it to transport bleach, what else did they use it for? Personal cleaning? I doubt it. There's no way they were up there. There's nothing for them to sit or hold on to. Not to mention, they couldn't have stabbed her from up there. Unless you take into account the size difference. The space above the entrance might not be able to support a person, but it could still support something as small as a bucket. I don't know how we overlooked this, but I've got it. The killer just balanced the bucket on the door. Exactly. When the victim came into the room, she pushed open the door and caused the bucket to fall on her. This would make it so she couldn't shoot back or even get a chance to see her assailant. When the bucket hit the ground, it probably rolled away. That'd explain why we found it a couple feet from the victim. There was a stepladder hiding behind the closet door. The killer probably used that. After climbing it, they could position the bucket right on top of the door. I've got it. The killer was hiding in the back of the closet. If he was pressed up against the furthest shelf and facing the entrance, there'd be a diagonal path between him and his victim. I say diagonal because that's the only way you can make a direct charge forward. Also, when the victim entered the room, she would have been standing with her back to the hallway, right outside the killer's range. That's why the stab wounds were only made to her chest. Expertise shouldn't be overlooked here. If there's anyone to believe, it's the lawyer. Wolfgang has spent his life in the courtroom and on the crime scene. He'd understand the criminal mind in ways we can't possibly imagine. He was even emotionally invested in a murder case he'd never seen before. If his lawyer's intuition tells us that the killer was in the wrong, then we have no reason to disagree. We're all ultimates for a reason. We need to trust in talent. Hey! Well, Eva, do you still disagree? What? We only went through this case because of you. Fine. I'll do as you ask. I'll present the truth. The victim was Kara Koshkinen, the ultimate teacher's aide. Right before her death, she was wandering around the academy carrying a large assault rifle. That was probably when our unnamed killer, who was armed with a knife, spotted her. At present, we don't have enough information to reveal the killer's true identity, but their actions haven't been forgotten. That is the truth behind this case. Well, are you satisfied?